Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Winter is coming on Collision, and all sorts have happened on the show for once. It was a really good episode, actually, of Collision in general. And as we start, of course, means AEW and the one only problem child, Mr. Dave Robinson, joins us. Dave, good evening. Happy Sunday to you. You're like an alien.
I know what happened
What was
then.
going on there?
Good evening. How you
Wow,
doing?
Magic Dave.
I don't know what happened then. There's some secret hand gesture that caused that to happen. I'm
You're
not
not
sure.
Mason, are you?
Yeah.
Sonic Lodge.
Lizard person.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good. Enjoyed Collision. Got a lot
Yes.
of positive things to say about it. I enjoyed Rampage as well. I don't think you've done a Rampage review yet,
Yes.
have you? Oh, you have done it.
Yes.
Yeah, that main event on Rampage, mate, was something else.
It was
Possibly,
nuts.
I said to my dad, possibly my match of the year, to be honest. I don't
Wow.
know if there's a bit of recency bias there.
Okay.
Yeah, need to think back of the full year and all the matches, but I can't think of a match I've enjoyed more than that for a long time. It was brilliant. I think AEW have had a good week. Collision was particularly strong. I'm gonna go with my rating straight out the gate.
Oh,
I thought it was an 8.5 out of 10 show for me.
cool.
I thought there was a lot of storyline development, particularly in the women's division. We got 2 women's matches, and we got a Tony Storm segment backstage. We got loads of good matches in the Continental Classic. That's really shaping up. I think the Blue League is a little bit more interesting than the Gold.
Yeah.
And yeah, when the show finished, I was kind of looking forward to Dynamite next week straight away. So they achieved everything that they should have, to be honest, and Collision's on a roll.
It is. Yeah, I put it 8 out of 10. So we'll get into that in a second. 2 bits of follow-up news, really, from the Dynamite review, which we don't know. The first one, I sent you this yesterday, was a bit more about Mercedes Moné and what the quote unquote, what can I call them? Internet committee or the dirt
IWC.
sheets. Yes, or the
Yeah.
dirt sheets was saying. Looks like WWE has made their first concrete move for Mercedes. I know we're talking WWE, but she's obviously been touted around AEW. The part of it now is that she's going to be working with Bayley against Damage Control at WrestleMania, and then in a lucrative year for her, limited dates, title run, and potential big match at WrestleMania 41. And she actually requested to work with Bayley herself, according to this report. Is it now looking more and more like Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks, will be heading back to WWE?
Certainly looks like it. The sticking point I read, or one of the sticking points, was the Mercedes Moné brand. WWE would want it to be Sasha Banks again, I would imagine.
I think so.
But she's got other stuff going on with the Mercedes name, hasn't she? I know the clothing line, and there's bits and pieces that she's
Yeah.
involved with. So that was something that has to be overcome. But in terms of the wrestling, the in-ring stuff, yeah, apparently she wants to work with Bayley, which makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to be surprised at all if she returns at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, is it a bit of a kick in the nuts though to Tony Khan? He promoted her big style during All In. I mean, I was watching it at home. I said this on the Dynamite review. She was on nearly every other time a match finished, she was on there. I think he even mentioned her, or she was a part of something earlier on where she could have been a part of Forbidden Door, but the injury that she sustained put her out. But it's a bit of a kick in the nuts after all the work that he's done prior to her signing.
It is a little bit, but as we spoke about on the Dynamite review, the women's division at times has been poorly booked. And
Yes.
if you're Mercedes watching that, you think, well, WWE are doing and the good feeling over there at the minute.
Yeah.
The familiarity, the money, the opportunities that WWE can perhaps give aside from the in-ring stuff and the limited dates and everything else. It doesn't surprise me, really. It's disappointing. And as I say, the women in AEW had a really, really good showing on this week's Collision.
Yes.
So whether that was intentional, a last-ditch effort to attract Mercedes, Yeah, we'll see, but I would imagine we'll be seeing Sasha Banks make a return at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, possibly, mate. Let's move on to some other. It's devastating news in a way. It's not necessarily negative news at all, but devastating for him. Kenny Omega hospitalized after Dynamite. Now he's got what Brock Lesnar has got.
Diverticulitis.
Thank you for pronouncing that because I had no fucking clue how to pronounce it. Massive, massive blow. Apparently, he was at Dynamite in a lot of pain. Why he didn't really do much. Hindsight being the best thing in the world, and if Kenny Omega was saying I'm in a lot of pain, blah blah, would it have been obviously well wishes to Kenny Omega? We hope he gets it sorted out. He's out indefinitely. We don't know what that's going to mean for the Golden Jets. They were meant to have their tag match coming up at World's End for the titles. Going back to what I was just about to say, with him kind of being in that much pain, would it have been better off if they ran like an injury sort of attack angle on Dynamite just to sort of think, well, worst case scenario, he can come back. No, best case, he's back next week and they can do a kind of retaliation to it. But also worst case, he's out ages, but we've done something to get him away. Unless they do it this week or like they re-recorded something for this week.
Possibly, yeah, they may have. If they haven't, then that might have been a good shout. Obviously, it was a lot more serious than they anticipated. Kenny's worked with injuries for years and years. He's come back from a lot of injuries, a lot of surgery. I don't think he would have ever suspected that it was diverticulitis that was hampering him. Hopefully, he makes a speedy recovery and he's back within a few months, but it could be a long-term one, to be honest. It's quite a serious condition.
Yeah.
In regards to the story, if they haven't done anything, I suppose there's ways they can get around it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll still be seeing Big Bill and Ricky Starks defend the titles at the pay-per-view. Not sure what the status of the Young Bucks is at the minute, because obviously they were the number one contenders prior to the Golden Jets beating them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they play a part in it and if they make their return soon. But yeah, devastating news for Kenny and for AEW fans. Hopefully he's not out long.
Yeah, we wish Kenny well, and hopefully obviously he's in the right place, and hopefully he gets the treatment he needs. I'm not sure if is it a disease or is it an actual injury? I don't know what that kind of how it works. I'm
not sure if it's a
digestive issue, isn't it?
I think it is more of a disease than a like a tear or an injury or anything like that. Yeah. But one that he can come back from. Brock Lesnar came back from it, and I'm sure we'll be seeing Kenny at some point in 2024, but certainly won't be seeing him for the rest of this year.
Yep, definitely not. As I say, we hope he gets better soon. Continental Classic started Collision, as we all mentioned. With all the members of the Blue League got their chance before it went live. They're the beginnings that we love and what Collision's kind of known for, the old school beginnings, which was really, really nice. And it rolled straight on with a really enjoyable match with a hot crowd as well. We have to mention that the crowd were hot for this. They're really buying into this tournament, which is coming to an end. I think next week's the last week of the tournament before it goes to World's End. And this match with the hot crowd delivered brilliantly. There was a bit of combination of fight, brawling with a bit of technical brilliance between Claudio and Andrade. But this for me was a surprise. We were talking about this before and saying it would be nice if we got a shock victory. For me, Claudio winning this one was a bit of a surprise, but a welcome surprise.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I would have put money on Andrade picking up the win here, particularly after picking up the win over Danielson. You really think, looking at the side of the tournament, Andrade is going to kind of run away with it now. And the fact that he hasn't does make it a lot more interesting, and it brings everyone else into it. I think there's only Garcia that's out. I think everybody else is in contention on the blue side. So they've done a really good job with that. Still no draws, but Claudio picking up the win, and the nature of it as well. Another kind of clever finish behind the ref's back. The ring post or the turnbuckle came into play. The turnbuckle cover came into play. And then Claudio went to the handbag and picked up the win. But really, really great match between these guys. And this is what the tournament's been doing for the past few weeks. We've been getting consistently good wrestling matches with no outside interference, no BCC, no hot kind of hijinks, but still a clever finish to get around it and ultimately protect Andrade. It was a low blow that Claudio capitalized on. But Andrade used that kind of tactic against Brody King, didn't he, to pick up a victory. So he tacked Danielson's eye as well. So yeah, it was kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. They're all at it, and really, really competitive and really bunched up now. I think the maximum points anyone's on is 9, and we've got a few on 6. And yeah, we're still unsure of which 2 are going to progress from this group.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that what AEW did do well as well is they made it perfectly clear that there was going to be no outside interference. And I think that really, really helped because it is literally clean, whether it's clean to a degree, as in we won't get that, you won't get the BCC or anybody else come in and jump them. It will literally be, you may get the odd shenanigan here or there, but there isn't going to be that.
It's like Moxley said, by any means necessary, but ultimately it is a one-on-one match. It's down to those 2 guys in the ring, and if they've got a trick up the sleeve to pick up the 3 points, then so be it. But yeah, no outside interference. We've had no disqualifications, no countouts. It's all been settled by a pinfall or submission, or I don't know if we've had a knockout actually in the tournament. There's been a couple lately, but yeah, I think pinfall or submission has settled every single match in the tournament, and I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. And I think the fans have really bought into it as well, haven't they? I think that was a big part of this. I mean, certainly what I've seen of this one. I mean, every week. But I think maybe from the anticipation of, this is going to be like a G1 kind of thing, they've really kind of seen it and gone and embraced it and actually really enjoyed it like we have.
Absolutely. And I think, this tournament's not even over yet. We don't even know who our semi-finalists are, but already I'm thinking about next year when they kind of announce it and we start speculating on who might be involved and which competitors are in the tournament. So they've done a great job with this overall.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to next year's one as well. And we'll see what happens. As you say, we're not even at the semi-finals yet. We've got another week to go, which will be really interesting. But we move on to the first bits of the women's now. Now, Abaddon was against Jasmine Allure. I mean, she just literally ran, spinning side effect, high kick, regal knee, Black Dahlia finish, bosh. But that was the match. Now, after the match, the lights went out. Julia Hart come back in. Now, she's been teasing a little bit recently with Abaddon. They started to brawl. As Abaddon was getting the upper hand, out comes Sky Blue. Now, Sky Blue was the one that got the miss months and months ago, got a revenge on Julia Hart, but has now seemed to have turned with Julia Hart because they started beating up Abaddon even more. And then we finally got the AEW return of one of the most controversial, talked about women, if you've watched all of the backstage stuff. Thunder Rosa comes in, breaks that up, sides with Abaddon. So we've now got Thunder Rosa back in the mix. Sky Blue's kind of settled up with Julia Hart how we thought he was going to. And Abaddon's now getting more of a run, which we wanted her to. So it's kind of really enhanced that story more, which is what we've been saying AEW needs to do with the women's division.
Yeah, it's brought more people in. We've saw more of Abaddon over the last few weeks. They're getting a real good run on, particularly on Collision. Really, really good record as well. I think they've picked up 45 wins in AEW. But to now have them the feature in the TBS title picture, alongside Thunder Rosa. I mean, I'm just glad we've got Thunder back. It could have been a little. You could say, could we have had a bigger moment for her? Could we have had more of a special return? But I think at this stage, we've saw her on commentary. We just kind of let's get her back in the ring and throw her straight into this story. That contradicts what I said on Dynamite about throwing stuff together. But I just think she's ready to compete, and she's missed enough time. So we don't need to wait for a big moment at pay-per-view. If there's an opportunity to bring her in and continue this story with Julia and Sky Blue, then she's the perfect choice in my view. Interesting, Sky Blue took the mist a few months ago and she slowly turned to the dark side, whereas Willow kind of took it and she's managed to fight it and resist. So I think that's the story they've gone with there.
Yeah.
It looked like at times that Sky Blue wasn't going to side with Julia, but we never really knew for sure. And even when she got in the ring this week, we weren't sure which way she was going to go. But I like that team. I like those two really talented young women together, and we'll see some great tag matches between those two, as we saw other great tag matches on the card that came up later on featuring the women.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's good to see them showcase in the right way, meaningful stories, and they're being enhanced as well. So that's
Yeah.
always a good sign. Now they've done a little bit of a backstage. We welcome back the Acclaimed after the beating that they took. I'm begging these guys to turn heel. That whole face turn, and it was due to crowd popularity, but it was due to crowd popularity because of the heel promos that they were cutting.
Yeah.
For me, and I'm glad that they're back, but I want them in something meaningful, and B, I want them heel.
Yeah, I want them back in the tag division, to be honest. I want them to move away from the trios. Yeah. I've enjoyed the run with Billy, and it's been entertaining, and he's had his big moment, and he's become a champion at 60, is he? Just turned 60, and
he looks great.
Yeah, he does, but he's getting towards the end of his career, and I really think it's time to push on the Acclaimed in the tag division. And there's some great, as we get to in this segment, some great competition for them in that trios division. Top Flight and Andrade, again going back to it, their match on Rampage against Penta, Commander, and Vikingo was sensational. If people haven't watched that, check out Rampage, and the whole of Rampage was a good episode, but that match in particular was just phenomenal. Those type of matches is what I want to be seeing on a frequent basis involving the trios titles. And I would love to see the Acclaimed, even if they turn heel or if they stay face, I'd love to see them just get back in the tag team division.
Because they are the trios champions. That's the thing. I think personally, and I absolutely agree, they need to be sick, they need to be tag. I want the trios titles to be on. I don't even necessarily want to be on the House of Black. I want them to be on the likes of Action Andretti and Top Flight. And I want to see more of that with like the Commanders, the Vikingos. And I think maybe that's what they need to mold that trios championship around.
100%. There's so many great luchadors and young up-and-coming stars and three-man teams they can put together to have. It should be a feature of Dynamite or Collision every single week. When the House of Black had those titles, it was a feature on Collision. And really, in recent times, I know they've had the storyline with the Acclaim that they were taken out, but we just haven't seen the trios titles being defended, or the match on Rampage has led to a situation where now they'll be challenging for the belts, but we just haven't seen enough. The booking of the trios division has not been great, and I don't think there's any excuse. We could have 6 guys like Top Flight and Action Andretti and 3 competitors, 6 guys every single week getting the opportunity to go out there on Dynamite or Collision and have the match of the night, and I don't understand why we don't see more of the trios titles.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully we will see that, as we say, once the Acclaimed have dropped him. I say, in my opinion, I want them heel, but I agree they need to be a tag. Now, wow, this match, our good mate, Mr. Orange Cassidy was next, defending his international championship against Bryan Keith, the outlaw, or some sort of outlaw.
Bounty hunter.
That's it. That's the word. Thank you, mate. The bounty hunter. This surprised me. I mean, what a match! I didn't even know who this guy was. He was in his home state as well, and a couple of times it even had me potentially buying into this upset victory, because I mean, he was that good. I mean, I'd never known of him before. Coincidentally, what I have found out is in May next year, he will be at Progress Wrestling Super Strong Style 16 at the Electric Ballroom. But my God, what a way, I mean, to introduce yourself to the AEW and to wrestling on mainstream TV.
Yeah, he's been involved with Ring of Honor, and when Danielson came into the company, he put him over in one of the press conferences backstage. He was somebody that Danielson mentioned as somebody he'd like to face in the future. So that was the first time I'd heard of him. This is the first time I've seen him in action, making his AEW debut. It couldn't have gone any better. He got a phenomenal reaction. This was a great match. Much like yourself, I thought, is this the way? Is Orange gonna? We saw this long title run with Orange in the international title, And I kind of thought that's what we were going to be getting, but at times during this match, I really did think Orange was in jeopardy and he was going to be dropping the title to Brian Keith.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed this match, and I hope we're going to be seeing more of the Bounty Hunter on AEW.
UK fans, as I just said, you can see the Bounty Hunter live at Progress Wrestling, Superstar Style 16 as a double header. I think it's in May. I think it's around the May Day bank holiday. Well, I can't quite remember the date of Super Strong Style 16. Hang on, I have Google in front of me. Let me find out when that is.
He was there's some moves as well that he did that flying headbutt like Orange was sat on the top rope. There was just stuff that I saw that I haven't seen before, which is always impressive after watching wrestling for so long. But he was a huge hit with the crowd as well, obviously being in his home state.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's not signed to an AEW deal, if he becomes All Elite based on the reaction and based on that performance against Orange Cassidy.
Absolutely agreed. May 26th, May 27th, over the May Bank Holiday weekend, Progress Wrestling does Super Strong Style 16. Funny enough, Malachi Black had won the tournament in the past.
Yeah.
He's on it. Casey Navarro is another really great wrestler from the States. He's on it. Eddie Dennis is involved in it. At the moment, that's all they've announced for it. So English, British fans, UK fans, go and see the Bounty Hunter over in Progress Wrestling. Definitely want to see that. Miro's back. Says things doesn't make sense anymore. He gets caught up in all the drama that CJ Perry brings. His wife, another one who was at the hospital, massive infection in a finger, went up to her arm. Hopefully she's going to be okay as well. So Miro's done avoiding people to appease his wife. He's ready to kill everybody to appease himself. Hopefully, Dave, we get to see a bit more of the Redeemer going forward.
Yeah, we're working towards the Redeemer against Andrade. Possibly that will depend on what happens with the tournament. So it's kind of on hold for the time being, but if that becomes a match at World's End or soon after, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I absolutely love the Redeemer. I'm glad on his return that he was still playing that character, but we just haven't seen a great deal of him, and he's a top star. So yeah, it's somebody that I would have liked to have seen in the tournament. I know everybody can't be in it, but I'd certainly like to have seen Miro as occupy one of those 12 places in the C2.
Yeah, me too. Me too for sure. We'll go back to Commander. He's back with Lexi Nair, but another one of our favorites, Roddy Strong, comes in. He won the Ring of Honor TV Championship on his first night, and he wants to get back on the horse against Commander. If them two are wrestling, just tell me when.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily expect this because Roddy's obviously been embroiled with MJF and Samoa Joe and Cole. So to see him confront Commander wasn't where I thought they were going with him next.
No.
In saying that, as you say, if that match is made for next week, then you just tell me when, and whatever show they put it on, it will be a great match. Roderick Strong has always been an incredible wrestler. That's never been in question.
No.
His personality, though, and his character work, this is the best stuff, in my opinion, that he's ever done. Really funny, comedic timing. I mean, sometimes you think he's the Adam stuff getting old, and then he'll do it with a surname like I do. Samoa Joe. Like that, some funny little moments, and I really like the Kingdom as well. Another 6-man or another 3 guys.
Yes,
it would be great. In that trios title picture.
Well, yeah, and you could also eventually align Roddy with Adam and Kyle O'Reilly when he's back, and they can. It's another 3. See, this is where we're saying about the trios and.
Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be much of a long-term plan or strategy.
No.
After the Young Bucks picked up the titles, it was always seemed to be they waited for the Young Bucks and Kenny to return until they launched the trios titles. But other than a House of Black, there really hasn't been much of a strategy or plan, or we can go weeks without seeing the titles on TV. But yeah, there's the talent is there, and hopefully they can sort that division out.
Exactly. Hope so. Speaking of tag teams, or at least tag teams anyway, on this one, FTR come out. They, Yeah, they said the House of Black have an issue with the success FTR are having. FTR don't have to be the best bodies. They have to do business with, etc. They fight for money and they don't mind getting their ass whooped. They're about to lay out a challenge to the House of Black, and then the lights go out. House of Black appear. Malachi comes back and sort of says, if I wanted to make it personal, I would have just put a picture of your family up and burn it. So Buddy Matthews does exactly that and really enhances that feud. It got personal now. This is the thing. They've teased a little bit. They've teased it here and there. They've now just, for want of a better phrase, flipped the switch. And this is going on. And again, we're sort of saying, just tell me a time and a place. Whenever this match is going to happen, we need to be you need to be all over it.
Yeah, I imagine World's End. I think that will be an incredible match. Those four guys, and as you say, it got personal now. They've literally ignited the feud with that lighter and burning the picture of the family.
Yeah,
Dax and Cash, particularly Dax, looked very, very beat up after his Ring of Honor match. I think they were against the BCC the night before. The Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
Yes, there was.
Yeah. So apparently that's a really good match as well.
I've seen a bit where there's a girl on her phone in the front row.
Yeah.
And Dax literally notices it, goes off the apron and literally is over to her and is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
He was proper pissed off that she's on her phone during the match. Yeah, it was really... Haven't seen the match personally, but the whole pay-per-view, from what I hear, brilliant.
Yeah, it was really good. I think the TV title match was really good as well, from what I've heard. Which ultimately Carl Fletcher picked up the win in that. But yeah, Dax looked beat up, but I'm sure he'll have a week or two to recover and be able to put on a phenomenal match against the House of Black. It's great to see Brody doing well in the tournament. But Malachi and Buddy as well. Yeah, can't wait for that match.
Yeah, I can't wait either. A match that really come out of the blue, really. Willow, Nightingale, Kris Statlander versus Diamante and Mercedes Martinez in a Texas street fight.
Yeah.
I did not expect the amount of violence of this match that we saw. There was getting dumped onto chairs. Mercedes shoved Statlander's face into Texan glass, for fuck's sake. Yes, real glass, CM Punk.
Cry me a river.
Yeah, cry me a river. Whether this was necessary or not, I don't really care. This was just crazily good.
Yeah, brilliant. And we shouldn't have doubted it because the women have done street fights before and they've been great. Tag street fights. So we had Penelope and the Bunny involved, and we've had Willow and Ruby Soho. There was another match as well, Ty Conte and Anna Jay.
Yes,
in a street fight tag team match.
Yeah.
So they always pull it out the bag, and this was just great. A very different style to anything else on the card.
Yeah.
They've had the problems with Mercedes and Diamante costing them matches and stuff, but yeah, with like you say, how necessary the violence was. But I'm not complaining. I thought it was great. I thought it was really, really good. Some good moments in the match. We saw some blood. And we've said for a long time on this podcast, let's book the women similarly to how we see the men, and that's exactly what we did in this. And really, really entertaining, good match.
Yeah, loved that one. Loved it. Brian Cage was next. Forgive me, don't know who the hell he was facing. Didn't last long.
No.
Powerbomb, drill claw, bang. He was at the back of the rest of the Mogul Embassy at that point. Keith Lee shows up and tells Cage to get in touch with Swerve because his patience is running out. Are we finally getting around to the full circle here of Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland? But again, questions around the timing with the Continental Classic and Swerve still being in that.
Yeah. It wasn't Shane Taylor as we thought. We did mention that the other week. Is it Shane Taylor? It's not, and it looks like it's Swerve Strickland. Now, I think the fans have wanted the Strickland Keith Lee match for a long time since they broke up as a tag team.
Yes,
I'd like to spin off and Brian Cage. Really, we're a big fan of Brian Cage. Yes. At times, he's been pinned when we didn't feel like he should be. I hope this leads to Brian Cage against Keith Lee. because Swerve seems to be on a trajectory that's going towards the world title, and I wouldn't want that to be derailed, even though I am interested in seeing Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland settle their issues, and after they were obviously tag team champions. So I hope whichever way they do it, we end up seeing Brian Cage involved in the mix, and maybe his dominant display tonight, you know, it kind of foreshadows that.
Yeah, definitely. And who knows with Keith Lee? Is this finally the moment that he breaks, you know, this whole thing that WWE didn't know how to use? We thought coming to AEW was going to be the big one, and it hasn't happened, but maybe now it will.
Yeah, we've seen him more consistently recently, and apparently, again, going back to the Ring of Honor card, the match against Shane Taylor was pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, if Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty are involved with this, and they're up against the Gates of Agony and Brian Cage as well, and that's another great match. Whether that spills over from Ring of Honor into AEW or vice versa, but there's plenty that can do there. So it'd just be interesting, as you say. Swerve's doing a lot at the minute. He seems to be involved with everything and everyone. But Keith Lee hasn't forgot about him, and they do need to you know, draw a line under that. So the only way to do that is get them to face each other.
Indeed, that's exactly it, and we'll see what happens with that. Continental Classic returns now, and I think there's something in the Texas water tonight, because every match that these in the Continental Classic seems to be trying to outdo each other. Now, Garcia had lost every one of these matches, but with this one with Kingston, I really couldn't care less, because all I wanted to see him do was wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. Kingston is fighting literally with everything he's got, because he knows that he needs to win the match to carry on in the tournament. This was, I mean, Garcia did dance as well during this, but this match was absolutely fantastic, and I want this. I want to see it again. Just put these two on every week. They absolutely delivered what I thought was going to be match of the night, but it did get outshadowed by one other match, which we'll get to. But this was fantastic, Dave.
Just great, yeah. And again, we keep saying it about this. This is what the tournament's done. I mean, we're used to getting great wrestling in AEW, but when there's more stakes on it, and Eddie Kingston in particular, you know, he's spotting the tournament and his titles are on the line.
Yeah,
you know, he was fighting for his life, and Daniel Garcia just wouldn't stay down. Even though he hasn't picked up a win, and we spoke about Mark Bristow and Jelly for. I really don't think Daniel Garcia has kind of done himself any harm in this tournament, because he's gone out there, tough group to progress from. Anyway, he had his work cut out for him.
Yeah.
But he has had match after match against top stars, and he's shown that he's the future of this company. He's going to be one of the top guys in AEW for years to come. Really good, really enjoyed it. There were times in this where I thought that, again, he could possibly beat Eddie. I always expected Eddie to win, because I thought for Eddie to lose the titles at this stage, I thought there's a bit, even if Eddie's not to win the tournament, I think there's more story to be told. But there was definitely moments in this when I thought Garcia could pick up the victory. So yeah, really, really happy with this.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Like I said, I thought it was going to be match of the night.
Yeah.
And then we had this one. Bryan Danielson, Brody King. Danielson has continued his unbelievable streak of matches, and you can't take away the star that is Brody King on this. I personally can't even describe this match or even hype it up enough. All I suggest everybody to do is go and watch Collision, all of it, because there isn't one bad bit of this. Watch this main event. Bryan Danielson does pick up the win, which I was a little bit disappointed of, but again, it keeps it all close. But Dave, is there any, I mean, this is what the Continental Classic, this match here, was all about.
Yeah, and I felt exactly the same. I wanted Brody to win. I wanted both of the guys to win, which isn't possible, obviously. But I had no preference, but I was disappointed when it finished. I think that was more than anything else, the fact that the match was over, more than who won it. I could have watched another half an hour of this easily. I'm really going to be a bit sad when this tournament's over, you know, and as you said earlier, I'll be looking forward to next year's. Brody King has shown just how good of a singles wrestler he is. We've known him really in his running in AEW as a tag guy, as a trios guy. We've seen the odd singles match, but nothing like a sustained run like this. What will be 5 matches against 5 top performers.
Yeah.
Could have main evented any pay-per-view, in my opinion, any of these Brody King matches. He's an absolute star. I don't know what they do with him really, because the title picture is so congested, and there's so many guys that we talk about, that we think could have a run with the title. So I don't really know where he fits long term, but if we just see him week after week having fantastic matches like we've seen in the tournament, then I think they really need to capitalize on that.
Yeah, they do. They can't forget him when this tournament is ended, and maybe they don't now. Maybe this is the making of him. As we're going to wrap up Collision here. I'm going to just say that for me, the show ruled. The street fight they blew the roof off. The C2, as you've already mentioned, continues to dominate the programming, not just Collision, Dynamite. And for all good reason. I think every one of these wrestlers in the tournament is bringing it. And it's noticeable because the fans can tell you that it's there. And that this tournament, and Owen Hart Cup's lovely for the nostalgia, lovely because it's Owen and he gets
it's a nice tribute. Yeah,
great tribute. This one really does feel special in how they've presented it, the people that they've put in it. And I also think that Collision this week, you won't find a better 2-hour show than what you've just put on, what AEW just put on. And I hope that they continue doing that once this is over. I actually gave this a 9.5 out of 10. I couldn't find fault with this show. And I really hope that going forward, that is the stuff that AEW put on our TV screens.
Yeah, they've had a number of challenges, this year, but they've ending the year on such a high.
Yeah.
The product, the in-ring product, it's kind of getting back to those earlier days, perhaps 18 months ago, when everything was just positive and before any kind of controversy and any kind of backstage stuff found its way into the press and disrupted some of the momentum. They're kind of quietly going about their business, and everything's getting back on track, and the on-screen shows, they just fly by for me. I'm sat there, and sometimes you have to carve out a couple of hours to watch wrestling. At the minute, when I'm watching these shows, they're over too quickly. Because I'm enjoying them so much, and it's the same with the WWE. I actually caught SmackDown this weekend, as I mentioned to you earlier, and I enjoyed that as well. I just think I can't stress enough for people just to enjoy wrestling and to enjoy the two promotions, and because this period won't last. We'll have a lull with highs and lows, and there'll be periods where we're kind of a bit disappointed. At the minute, we've really got nothing to complain about as wrestling fans, and AEW fans should be really excited for 2024. Really excited to the pay-per-views. We got All In coming back over here in 8 months' time. Which we're all going to. I've said it's probably the line that I've said more than any other this year, but great time to be a wrestling fan. And Collision would be a show that I would quite happily show perhaps old wrestling fans or lapsed fans that used to watch it. We know a load of people like that, both of us, that used to watch wrestling and they don't anymore. This is the type of show that I would say, check this out. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if that reinvigorated their interest in wrestling. Great show.
Yeah, absolutely love Collision this week. Coming to the end of the show, so it's time to hype up stuff. Well, tonight, because we record this on a Sunday. The show will go out on our channels on Monday. So when this show goes out on Monday, we'll be gearing up, Dave, to ask Eric Bischoff anything.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. And he's not the biggest fan of AEW from stuff that he said. I mean, there's certain things where I think Eric does get criticism or hate online. And he's kind of concentrating on the business of it, and that it is indisputable undeniable that there's things that AEW or mistakes they've made from a business point of view, that he's absolutely right to call them out on. But I just think the in-ring is so good. I'm just interested to have a chat with him and pick his brain and see what really see what I think, or what he thinks they're doing, what they could be doing better on screen or in the ring, because I just can't fault it at the minute. The business side, totally understand the stuff that he's such a knowledgeable, and he's not just worked in wrestling, he's worked in television, and he does his own television production company, I believe. So
he did. He's
a lot more clued up on it than the likes of me as just a fan. But I just I would love for him to endorse AEW. I think that would be my aim. I'd love, because what Eric says, he has a lot of influence. So if Eric Bischoff's coming out and kind of being negative about AEW, fortunately, that can have a detrimental effect. So I'd really like to know what it is that he thinks AEW needs to do for him to be back on the AEW bandwagon.
Well, we'll find out. That would be a question that you can ask him tomorrow. We're literally going to be asking Eric anything. I've got some questions from you guys already, so thank you very much for those that have already asked. If you want some questions being put to Eric Bischoff, put a comment at the end of this video if you want in the comments section. Hit us up on HTT Buckle on Twitter. Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social platforms. Just leave us a message with your question and we'll put it to Eric on the show tomorrow. We've also got the NWA US champion Big Strong Mims on Thursday. Me and Fiona are running through that. I today have announced that the gift of Christmas gave to me is a few days after Christmas, I'll be sitting down with a former NWA wrestler and star of the film The Iron Claw. Brady Pierce will be coming on the show to talk all things Iron Claw and NWA. Now, Collision next week falls on Christmas. Well, it pretty much falls on Christmas Eve over here in the UK. So we are going to imagine that will be next week's Collision will be probably the review will probably be a bit later on after Christmas, because I like to give the staff Christmas off, Dave.
Thanks, man.
Especially as with the little ones, and I've got we've all got family and that coming down, so we will be taking the time off of for Christmas just to spend it with our families and loved ones and get all of our presents opened. But we will review Collision. It will just be a bit later, probably closer to World's End. We will try and squeeze in, Dave, a World's End prediction show, as you kind of dropped that one on me during the Dynamite review. But we will get that done as well. But Dave, thank you so much for your time as ever. We will be back to do Eric Bischoff. This has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I have been your host, Adam Cousins. But as always on AEW shows, I leave it to my man, Mr. David Robinson, to end it. Please, Dave, go right ahead.
It's time to bid you adieu, goodbye, mwah, and good night. Bang.
And stay safe.